It's the Real News Network. I'm Sharmini Peres coming to you from Baltimore. President Putin of Russia and President Erdogan of Turkey recently announced that they will hold a summit in St. Petersburg on August 9th. After 7 months of damaged relations and mutual sanctions, the two countries appear to be making up again. Last December, Turkey had shot down a Russian fighter jet near its border with Syria because it supposedly violated Turkish airspace. In retaliation, Russia stopped negotiations on a gas pipeline to Turkey and canceled all charter flights, resulting in a 92% drop in Russian tourism to Turkey. Tourism makes up 15% of economic activity in Turkey. Now that the two countries might make up again, it could signal an important shift in alliances if Russia succeeds in peeling away Turkey from NATO and its Western allies. With us to discuss these developments is Aleksandr Buzgalin. Professor Buzgalin is a political science and economy professor at Moscow State University. He joins us from Crimea today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I'm very glad to have debates with you and to have dialogues with you.
So let's talk about Russia's motivations here for repairing relations with Turkey. Presumably, it would be in Russia's interest to peel away Turkey from its Western allies. Is there anything else going on here in terms of geopolitical relations?
Really, it's more political games than fundamental strategic changes. For Russia and for Turkey, it's very important to have mutual exchange because for Turkey, Russian tourism is important. For Russia, there is big chance that we can go to Europe through Turkey with gas, with oil, and not only. Plus, Turkey is a NATO country, but a very specific country which has a relatively independent policy. And this, of course, is fundamental motivation for both Russian elites, better to say, and Turkey government, Turkey business to have future cooperation with Russia, as it was before, maybe even more strong cooperation. I want also to stress that, unfortunately, both Russia and Turkey has very deep internal problems, and we have economic stagnation and even small decline of gross national product, plus continuing of inequality growth and some other big problems in our economy. Turkey also has no good situation in economic sphere. Plus, of course, there are limitations and restrictions of democracy in Russia. There are the same problems in Turkey, especially after an attempt of coup d'etat. And it's also similar. Some formal, visible features, I can say, appearance of behavior of Erdogan and Putin also have some similarities. That's why we have now big new hopes. I mean, not we as Russian left democratic intelligentsia or NGOs or civil movements, but officials of Russia has new hopes for cooperation with Turkey. And from their point of view, this is chance to overcome isolation from foreign countries and to move forward Russian cooperation with other countries. I'm not very optimistic about these plans, but at least we have some small positive trends in economic sphere, because as I said in the beginning, cooperation with Turkey is profitable for both Turkish business and Russian business.
Now, President Erdogan in Turkey shut down 103 media outlets in Turkey. He's also arresting a lot of dissent in the country, teachers, professors, people in the military, and he's obviously trying to take a greater control. Do you think that Moscow will turn a blind eye to this kind of activity? Because clearly some of the Western allies are already stating their discontent with this kind of crackdown.
You know, there is so-called realpolitik. I don't like this expression, but it's very typical to say. Of course, it's a big problem when there are some restrictions of human rights, freedom of speech, and so on. But there are questions of economic efficiency, of geopolitical strategy, and that's why we must continue our cooperation. By the way, Turkey is a member of NATO, and Turkey has, even after all these negative anti-democratic steps of Erdogan, has normal relations with the United States. And I don't think that US will start economic sanctions like sanctions against Russia, because Erdogan made a lot of really very undemocratic steps. I can say even authoritarian attacks on intelligentsia, mass media, and so on. I'm afraid that it will be also repressions against all kinds of opposition, especially democratic left opposition, and they will be, or Erdogan will proclaim that democratic left opposition in Turkey is or was a supporter of coup d'etat or something like that. It's typical for any authoritarian leader to use such attempt for struggle against all possible and impossible enemies or so-called enemies.
Yeah.
Fortunately, in Russia, we don't have such strong limitations of democracy. We still have radio echo of Moscow, which has permanent and sometimes absolutely primitive and stupid critic of Putin. It's necessary to criticize economic, social policy in our country, in Russia, but I don't like personal attacks interconnected with not fundamental questions.
Until now, Turkey has been on the side of the U.S. when it came to the conflict in Syria, and it had insisted that peace in Syria would have to mean a departure of Assad. Now, what's interesting is this new alliance. How will it impact Russia's support for Bashar al-Assad, and how will Turkey weave its way through all of these differences?
Really, it's a question not to Professor Buzgalin, it's a question to Erdogan and Putin. I can give also only my suggestions about this question. I think that Erdogan will try to find compromise between Washington and Moscow. I don't know how is it possible, but now it's a visible attempt to have balance between these two centers. And really, it's not very fruitful for both Russia and Washington, because for Russia, cooperation with Erdogan is, from political point of view, from ideological point of view, from the point of view of principles, fundamental principles of democracy and so on, it's not very good friendship or at least cooperation. And before, a few months ago in Russia, it was a lot of noise or a lot of information. I don't know how was it true or not, but it was a lot of propaganda that Erdogan is supporter of Islam terrorism, that he has an enormous amount of money from oil which is exported, and this money are going to support Islam terrorists and so on and so forth. Now Erdogan will be again friend of Russia, or not maybe friend, but good partner for Russia. I don't like these political games, and even ordinary people can understand that this is game interconnected with business, with geopolitical games, and so on. I'm afraid that cooperation or negotiations, relations with United States will be based on the same very pragmatic basis without any fundamental values. It's negative for Turkish people, for Russian people, for US people, and this is not abstract words of, I don't know, academic person. It's a real important question. If foreign policy is based on the fundamental values and the strategy, or it's only game which must support leaders and big business.
I thank you, Professor Buzgalin, for taking time off, not only so late at night, but also from your vacation. Thank you. Have a good time in Crimea.
Goodbye.
And thank you for joining us on the Real News Network.